In this video exercise, you're going to learn how to write media queries so we can change the design of just about anything on our HTML page based upon what the viewing width is. So a media query is essentially a way of asking the person's software, hey, how wide are you viewing our website? And if it's such a certain size, we can actually change parts and attributes and style properties of our web page. Right? So that way we can write one website and it would show up well no matter what size of viewing they have. It could be on a smartphone, they could be on a tablet, or they could be on a desktop. And the site is going to, in a sense, redesign itself based upon these media queries. Otherwise, you would have to write separate websites based on different viewing sizes. And in some cases, some companies still do that. The tough part about that is it's three times the work, or at least twice the work if you have two separate sites, a mobile site and a regular website. So if you make an update to one site, you have to remember to go and make the update to the other site. Not everyone has that luxury, so to keep things simple, we'd like to try to keep all our content to one site. And with responsive design, we can make things different based upon the viewing width. Okay, so let's go back to Dreamweaver. And we're going to go to our style sheet. And at the very bottom, we're going to take advantage of the cascading properties. And after our custom styles, we're going to create our first media query. And where we want things to change first is right about 768 pixels. That's about when things start looking a little tight, a little too narrow, maybe somewhere in here. So at 768 pixels, we're going to want this main section to pop back out to 100% width. And then we also want this aside to pop out and be 100% width, but we want it below the main. All right, so I'll show you how we do that. So let's go to, well, let me bring that back out. Let's go down to our custom styles. Back to we're going to change this to a media query. And we're going to make this for 48M, or we can say 768 pixels and smaller. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is write our media query, and there's a certain format for that. We start with the @ symbol, and then we're going to change media. And we're going to say we want the screen, and we're going to put the property of max width. You can also do min width. Some designers prefer using min widths instead of max widths. But I prefer working with max widths. I just think it's a little easier to understand. And we're going to start creating some properties for this media query. All right, so this is the query. It says anytime we have, once we get smaller than 768 pixels, we're going to change some things. All right, so the first thing we're going to change is the main. So it also is going to have the properties just like this. And we're going to change it back to a width of 100%. And let's also, well, let's see what that does first. And let's also do the aside, since we know we want the aside to also become 100%. All right, so we'll hit save, and let's go see what that does. We hit refresh. I'm in Firefox still. So it gets smaller, and once it gets to 768, it's going to pop that out to 100%. So our main pops to 100%, and we go down below, and our aside is also 100%. And notice that my aside doesn't have a margin down at the bottom. Let's go back and add that. And I'll do that up at the very top. Here's our main. We've got box sizing. Let's add margin bottom of 20 pixels. Okay, and we could also use M's for this, but we're going to keep it at 20 pixels for now. That should work. So now as I make sure I save this, and as I come back to refresh that, it should keep, even when the main pops down below, we now have a little margin there. All right, so that keeps it consistent with what I got there and what I got up here between the nav and the main. That's why we did that. So that was our first media query, is to change everything. And now as you scroll this on, say, a tablet held vertically, this is a lot nicer. And when you have it this, even this might even be a little too wide. You might even say, hey, let's go, you could change it to 960 pixels. But we'll go ahead and just keep it at 768. So that's what the media query does, is right there, boom, it pops it, and it makes the main 100%. It also made the aside 100%. Now, some other things that can change, well, no, I think this is looking pretty good for now. And we'll just keep that as is. But let's add another media query, because now I can get things really small here. And you'll notice I've got some strange text wrap around our media query about our image here. We'll change that in just a little bit. But maybe once I get this width, maybe I don't want to, once I get this small, maybe I don't need all this padding on the edge anymore. All right, so I'm going to get rid of some of that padding. So let's write another media query. And we'll change this to @media screen, and I'm going to do a max width. This time we're going to choose, let's go 20M. So I can create another media query header up here. And some people might even have another title and just call these media queries. So you can jump down to your media queries a lot faster. So this one was 48M. This one I'm going to change to 20M. So 20M converts to 320 pixels. So these are just notes to myself. These are comments. You don't have to do this. This doesn't affect how anything displays. This is just for your own visual arrangement. So we have that set up, and we'll then put in our brackets. And so here we're going to want to change our padding for our main. So I'm going to type in padding. I'm just going to use the short code for this. I already have kind of figured this out. So we're going to do 1/8 of we're going to point 0.125M, and we'll go 0.5M and 0.25M. So that means when we have a short code of 3 numbers, the first one is the top, second is left and right, third is bottom. So we're going to do that for our main. And since they're kind of stacked next to each other, I think it would look best if the aside had the same thing. I'm just going to actually just copy and paste this since I already wrote it out. And we're going to make that the same, so it's pretty consistent. Okay, so we'll go ahead and hit save. And now let's take a look at what happens. I'll make this a little wider. We'll hit refresh. And as we get narrower, the first media query hits there. And we have 100% width. That looks good. And as we get narrower and narrower, when we get to 320 pixels, come on. Oh, maybe it doesn't get to 320. So my browser window won't let me get to 320 pixels. But if it did, then you would see this also. So let's actually change it. Let's go and make it 480 pixels. So now I'm gonna have to do some quick math of 480. And some people who are adverse to math maybe don't like it. But I know that my body pixel size was 16 pixels. So I'm going to divide 480 by 16. So we get 30M. So let's make this 30M instead. So I'm going to change our media query to 30. And we'll hit save. I'm going to bring this out, refresh. 480 is one of the smaller mobile phones held horizontal. So here is the first break. That's 768 pixels. Then as we get closer to 480, watch the padding break down. So then you get much closer to the edges. And that probably gets pretty important as you get to a very narrower size. You really don't need a whole lot of padding. I mean, you're running out of a lot of horizontal space. So it's a good idea to make that work like so. And we got that consistent in both our main and our aside. All right. And that's really how we add media queries for our responsive design.